Star Trek's original pilot ingeniously fulfilled its Strange New Worlds mission in one episode. Star Trek's original pilot, The Cage, ingeniously fulfilled the Starship Enterprise's mission to explore strange new worlds in a single episode. Produced in 1964, written by Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry, and directed by Robert Butler, The Cage starred Jeffrey Hunter as Captain Christopher Pike, with Majel Barrett as his first officer, Number 1, Leonard Nimoy as the alien Mr. Spock, with Susan Oliver as Vina. The Cage was ultimately rejected by NBC, but was repurposed in Star Trek, the original series The Menagerie, and it's the inspiration for Star Trek Strange New Worlds. In Star Trek's The Cage, Captain Pike's USS Enterprise is diverted to the planet Talos 4. Pike is soon taken prisoner as the planet's natives, the Talosians, hold him in their alien menagerie. A race with the ability to cast powerful illusions, the Talosians intend to mate Pike with his prospective love interest Vina, the sole survivor of a human ship that crashed on Talos 4 years earlier. However, the Starship Enterprise's crew fight to free Pike, and the Talosians ultimately agree to release them while Vina remains on the planet. Star Trek's The Cage brilliantly showcased the Enterprise's Strange New Worlds mission. The Cage did not begin with Star Trek's mission statement narration that the Starship Enterprise is on a 5-year journey to explore strange new worlds, seek out new life and new civilizations, and boldly go where no man has gone before. However, Gene Roddenberry designed The Cage to showcase that very mission statement. Although Captain Pike's Enterprise only visits Talos 4 in the episode, Roddenberry ingeniously used the Talosians' power to create illusions to depict other strange worlds and environments to convey what Star Trek would be about. When the Starship Enterprise's landing party explores Talos 4, they encounter a suitably alien landscape, along with intriguing singing flowers. Although Captain Pike is held prisoner in an underground menagerie, the Talosians use their powers to cast illusions, taking Captain Pike to the medieval world of Rigel 7, his own futuristic Earth hometown of Mojave, California, and a bizarre alien outpost filled with extraterrestrials, including Vina dancing as an Orion slave girl. Efficiently, Gene Roddenberry uses The Cage to provocatively illustrate how Star Trek would take audiences to amazing new planets every week. Why NBC rejected The Cage, but still wanted Star Trek. NBC infamously rejected The Cage, reportedly declaring Star Trek's pilot too cerebral, after Gene Roddenberry pitched his sci-fi series as Wagon Train to the Stars filled with action and adventure. Indeed, The Cage is a more thoughtful science fiction tome, although Roddenberry did pepper his first Star Trek episode with a couple of fight scenes for Captain Pike. But Jeffrey Hunter portrayed Pike as somber and introverted, instead of the dynamic leading man NBC expected Star Trek to center around. Still, NBC saw the potential in Star Trek and, in an unusual move, requested a second pilot from Gene Roddenberry. However, the network demanded Star Trek be recast from top to bottom, and they especially wanted the alien Mr. Spock and the female first officer, Number 1, cut from the show. Roddenberry opted to save Spock and infuse Number 1's cool logical traits into the Vulcan. However, perhaps the key that launched Star Trek was replacing Jeffrey Hunter's Captain Pike with the dynamic William Shatner as Captain James T. Kirk. When Gene Roddenberry first envisioned Star Trek, he imagined a universe brimming with exploration, discovery, and the boundless possibilities of space travel. The pilot episode, The Cage, which was filmed in 1964 but ultimately not aired until decades later, remains a testament to Roddenberry's ambitious vision. Though the pilot was deemed too cerebral by studio executives at the time and led to the recasting of key characters, including Captain Christopher Pike being replaced by James T. Kirk, it brilliantly set the foundation for what would become Star Trek's enduring ethos, the exploration of strange new worlds. In a single episode, The Cage encapsulated the spirit of discovery, intellectual curiosity, and moral challenges that define the Star Trek universe, and has since been carried forward in recent iterations like Star Trek Strange New Worlds. This first pilot deftly introduces viewers to a complex, imaginative world, exploring uncharted planets while grappling with philosophical dilemmas that would come to characterize the franchise. Exploring the Unknown, A Journey to Talos 4, The pilot begins with Captain Pike, played by Jeffrey Hunter, commanding the USS Enterprise on a mission to investigate a distress signal from a planet called Talos 4. The very premise of the episode, an unscheduled detour to an unknown, possibly dangerous planet, embodies the core of the Strange New Worlds mission. This mission, as articulated in later iterations, is a vow to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. In the cage, the crew of the Enterprise finds themselves on Talos 4, a seemingly desolate planet. As the story unfolds, it becomes clear that the Talosians, a telepathic race of aliens, have been using illusions to manipulate Pike and the crew. The Talosians can create incredibly lifelike simulations, controlling what the crew sees, hears, and experiences. For Pike, these illusions challenge his perception of reality and force him to question his moral compass, an early example of how Star Trek would use space exploration to probe deeper questions about the human condition. The planet Talos 4 itself, with its barren landscape and mysterious underground society, represents an ideal embodiment of the strange and unknown worlds that Star Trek would continue to explore. The idea that outward appearances can be deceiving and that even seemingly inhospitable worlds can harbor life and secrets became a central theme of the series. This balance of adventure and moral introspection was brilliantly executed in The Cage, setting a precedent for future episodes. Philosophical and ethical dilemmas. What makes The Cage such a standout episode in the context of the Star Trek canon is its focus on the ethical dilemmas that arise from the crew's encounter with the Talosians. The Talosians have evolved to the point where they rely on illusion for everything, having lost the ability to create or innovate in the physical world. They attempt to trap Captain Pike in an illusory paradise with Vina, a human woman who was stranded on the planet years earlier. The Talosians' ultimate goal is to use Pike and Vina to repopulate the surface of the planet, effectively imprisoning them in a utopia of the mind. Pike's resistance to this notion, his refusal to live in a world that is not real, echoes the deep human desire for freedom and authenticity, two values that are central to the Star Trek philosophy. This clash between the illusory comfort offered by the Talosians and Pike's quest for self-determination mirrors broader societal debates about the nature of reality, freedom, and control. In many ways, it prefigures similar questions that would be explored decades later in science fiction films like The Matrix. The pilot also introduces the audience to a recurring Star Trek theme, the value of diversity in thought and experience. Pike, despite being tempted by the Talosians' offer of a perfect illusion, ultimately chooses to return to the uncertainty of real life, symbolizing humanity's constant drive to push boundaries and seek out the unknown, even when faced with comfortable stagnation. The show suggests that true progress and evolution, whether personal or societal, come not from complacency, but from continual exploration and challenge. The foundation for future Trek, though The Cage was not picked up as the official pilot, its themes and structure laid the groundwork for the future of Star Trek. When the series was eventually retooled with Captain Kirk at the helm, many elements of The Cage survived, albeit in altered forms. The notion of venturing to strange new worlds, confronting philosophical dilemmas, and wrestling with the ethical implications of space exploration remained at the heart of the series. Even the Talosians and their illusory powers were revisited in the Star Trek, the original series episode, The Menagerie, a two-part episode that reused much of the footage from The Cage and reframed it within a new narrative.